if we compare Bitcoin to the S&P 500, we can see a huge divergence happening right now, with the S&P 500 going up tremendously while Bitcoin is obviously low. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because we are seeing strong correlation between the 2018 cycle. This is going to be a very interesting video, so have a look at this. Let me go back to 2018 and we can see something very interesting happening here. So if I zoom out a bit, we can see obviously that the S&P, the blue line here, is having a local high while Bitcoin is low. Now eventually they both meet at the bottom and find a bottom at the pretty much the same time. Right now, 2026, Bitcoin is also low, but the S&P is making new all-time highs. Now, if I also on top of this look at the bull and bear market support bands, look at this, and I remove the S&P 500 from here. Let me remove it for you guys. We can see what is happening. So pretty much, one sec, in February here, beginning of February of, here we go, February's here, we had a low, then we retested the bull and bear market support bands, we created a higher low, and then eventually retested these bull and bear market support bands, went sideways a bit, retested it a few times, then eventually went up. Now, if I look at what Bitcoin is doing right now, so if I go to 2026, we can see the same thing happening right now. So let me go into February. We are right here. For February, let me remove the drawings. We obviously went down, created a very low. Now we created a higher high right here and retesting the bull and bear market support bands. And looks like we are going down. I mean, we talked about this the last few times also. We're getting rejected from the bull and bear market support bands. S&P is very high. Bitcoin is down. Same thing happened in 2018. The S&P was very high. Bitcoin was down. We then went down in February, went up, created a higher low, retested the bull market, bear market support bands, went sideways for a couple more months, and eventually found the bottom of the bear market. And I think the same thing is going to happen this cycle for Bitcoin. Now, looking at Bitcoin, regardless of the S&P 500 right now, we can see obviously we're trading in this pattern right now. We had the first bear flag pattern and now the second bear flag pattern, of which we are retesting the highs right now, and looks like we are eventually gonna go down. Like I mentioned last time, we might go a bit higher to retest the previous lows here or retest the CME gap, which is at 84,000, but eventually I think we're gonna play out exactly as we did last time in 2018. There's strong correlation. Looking at Bitcoin here on the 4-hourly, we've been mentioning this major support line. We've been bouncing up from, and now it looks like we are going down. We just went down here just now, a couple of hours ago, and this might be the first indicator that one, we are getting rejected from the bull and bear market support bands and starting our decline going further down. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, apart from this, if we look at the fear and greed index, we can see that right now we're back into neutral, and knowing from history that if we are in a bear market, going from neutral to a more bullish stance, so going from neutral to slightly bullish, is usually a trap. And this is because in a bear market, the trend is downwards. So don't be fooled if we now go from neutral to bullish, the trend is still bearish, meaning over the next few months, expect us to go further down. And please don't get trapped if we go a bit higher from here, because we have obviously been going up. This was bullish, but now we are again in the neutral zone and we will again become bearish. Also looking here at the Bitcoin spiral, this is a very nice chart. So this just shows us that we are right now in quadrant 3. This is the time in the market where we are, where always the bottom of the bear market happens. It always happens in the third quadrant. We are right here at the moment. We just entered the third quadrant, and it is imminent in a few months' time that we are going to create a low. Therefore, do not get fooled, as over time we are going to get further down. However, Bitcoin, even at these levels at $77,000 right now, Bitcoin is still an immensely cheap and very good asset to buy, because eventually, if you understand how Bitcoin works, we are going to go to potentially millions of dollars if you measure it in US dollar nominal value. Now, why do I say that? Well, Bitcoin has one direction long term, and it's going up, because if we measure it in assets like the US dollar, which we can see right now, the US has over $39 trillion of national debt. the value of the dollar is only going one way, which is going down. If you measure any asset in terms of US dollar and the asset is gaining in value or stabilizing in value, it is going up. Because as the US dollar loses value, any asset measured in terms of the US dollar will therefore obviously gain value. The US economy, the politicians, this is the issue which I'm trying to highlight here, is that politicians, usually in the US, they are for a set number of years, usually 4 years, and the goal of politicians is to be re-elected and have the votes of the public. How do they do this? They do this by creating good times. How do they create good times? They inject money into the economy by lowering the interest rates and printing more money. This allows people to spend more, to transact more, businesses grow, people feel like they can buy more, but eventually as inflation catches up and the value of the money goes down, people will be in a much worse situation, as of course the purchasing power of their money goes down, and therefore it might look like they have more money in their bank accounts, but that money can now buy less real goods and real assets. And therefore, buying something like Bitcoin, which has a finite supply, which is not controlled by a government and cannot be printed more. There will always ever be no more than 21 million Bitcoins in circulation. We know that a lot of these Bitcoins are already lost and will never be recovered again. It cannot be manipulated like the dollar. And therefore, I think it is an amazing asset to buy. Just like silver or gold is an amazing asset to buy, which cannot be manipulated by the government, which cannot be duplicated and created more of by just printing and throwing on a money printer, which will just create this situation, which the US and many global economies are in right now, causing a lot of national debt. Now, Warren Buffett has said famously, I can end the US deficit problem in 5 minutes. You just pass a law that says that anytime there's a deficit of more than 3% of GDP, all sitting members of Congress are ineligible for re-election. If we were to implement this and politicians had to actually find a way to stop inflation and actually stop printing money and lowering interest rates just for their own benefit and for the benefit of the people so they get re-elected, this will long-term be very healthy for the economy. Now, there's a very famous quote which I like to say here, which is that tough times create tough people create good times, and good times create weak people, and then weak people again create tough times. So it's a cycle, it's an inevitable cycle which we are in, whereby politicians try to create good times by lowering interest rates, by increasing the money supply. This then creates weak people and eventually inflation. A very interesting thing I want to mention here is something called this economy here. This is an island in Micronesia. It's called Yap Island, where actually these big boulders, these big stones used to be used as currency. Okay, before we had other forms of currency, this famous geologist found out that these large stones were used as currency. So if the stone is larger, you were able to buy more assets. If the stone was smaller, you were able to buy less assets. And of course, in this island, there's only a certain number of stones. So it's very much like the perfect economy. You have a limit. It's very much like Bitcoin. You have a limited supply of currency, which is in this case the stones. There's a much more limited amount of large stones, which have higher value. And now what happened here? There's a problem, there's a dilemma, a social dilemma. This guy, or the guy who came to the island, he then took his large ships and brought in stones, which are very large stones from outside the island into the economy, into the island. And now he was the richest man on the island, okay? What this means is that all the stones which are on the island already are worth less than they were before, as there's more stones now in circulation. And the same concept can be applied to any economy right now with a central government, with a central bank that is printing money. We are just increasing the money supply. In this case, more stones came on the island and this devalued and everyone became poor who had few stones before. And this eventually crippled the economy, and the whole monetary system which they were using stones collapsed. And if you understand this, and you understand that we're living in a time where there's super inflation, super high inflation, and politicians are trying to get re-elected and just lowering the interest rates and creating wars. Like right now, the US has entered the war with Iran, and we know that war is one of the worst things to happen to a national currency, as only from the war alone, I read a statistic that $10 billion have been spent on the war alone every single day. And you know where that money is coming from. That money is created digitally through the banking system. And it is money that was not there before. It is new money in this economy, which will eventually, of course, cause inflation. And everyone is going to be in a worse situation afterwards than they were before. And if you understand this, I hope you understand that Bitcoin is an amazing solution to this, whereby there's a limited supply. Like I said, there's no central government that controls it. It is controlled by pure supply and demand. And eventually, as all other currencies go into hyperinflation, and we've had many cycles of hyperinflation. Look at Venezuela, look at in Germany after World War II, you had, after World War I, we had the hyperinflation happening after World War I, whereby you use so many Deutschmarks to just buy bread, and eventually the system collapsed. And the same thing is going to happen to most other economies. The reason why the US is able to continue this is because it is the #1 currency that other countries use also, and because of their military, whereby they can defend their assets. But eventually currencies are going to collapse, and I think, and I'm strongly positive, that Bitcoin is here to stay. And therefore, yes, we might be at $76,000. The best thing you can do is buy as you get your income, as you get your dollars or euros or whatever currency you earn, convert these into Bitcoin, and you will eventually, your purchasing power will surpass the fiat money. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I personally find this very interesting. If you did, smash the like button. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.